right. I think we have time for one or two more questions.
Is any platform for the young children, like the grade 8 person, how they involve anything? Any platform?
So I guess when it comes down to finding a platform, I'd say there are different niches, there are different types of people, and there are platforms everywhere. It's just they're not known. Right? So I work with the board and we have a student senate, but the problem that we run into is that outreach. How can we engage the most amount of people to tell them, like, hey, like, we have this cool, really cool forum that you can literally get change amongst your trustees. The problem is outreach and trying to find those initiatives, and I think that's a barrier that students find when it comes down to the question that you asked: how are we getting people who aren't in these specialized programs, who don't have that guided push to find those things? It has to come personally, I guess. For some students, it has to come with the ambition or the passion to find those platforms, to find an arts forum, or to find a business program that U of T is offering, or to find an arts program that that they might enjoy. I guess we have the power of technology. We have just many different people who have the capability of making platforms on an everyday basis. Like, we have new things coming up every single day where you have an event here or a conference here or an art show here. Like, the things are there. It's just you got to find them. You got to connect with them. And for me, the onus has really been placed on the personal individual. And I think there is a lot of work that not only schools can do, but community groups and religious groups even that can do to connect students with those identified good connections that they can make. I don't know if you...
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, at the same time, then it's like it is the individual, but then there's also like a lot of like inaccessibility within schools that have specialized programs. So like I go to like an art school, I go to a typical school of the arts, and right now like we're having conversations within our school in terms of examining like the wild amounts of inaccessibility that we have because of like so many reasons, like cost, placement, like the image of our school, the reputation of our school, in terms of like examining like, yes, there are so many individuals who, like, not everyone wants to go to an art school, but even like the ones who do, like, there's so many barriers. So in terms of like every school with specialized programs, looking at how to break down those barriers, so then individuals who want to seek out those programs can seek them out and feel like they're in a space where they feel comfortable and they want to be.
Absolutely.
I think like a lot of it also comes down to the teachers. And let's say like I go to a semester school. Let's say you go to a semester school and you have 3 teachers that like you don't really have any relationship with. You don't have any connection. Like you just go sit in your class. Like they give you homework and stuff. But you have that one teacher that really guides you and acts like a friend or family member to you. And I think that relationship is really valuable, even if they can't push you to do something that you believe in, or like make a big change. They can definitely direct you to different programs, community programs, or they really can motivate you to do something. If you have a teacher that you know you can reach out to, that teacher can have all the power to help you make the change. Because honestly, like, a lot of students have great ideas and a lot of students do have motivation, and it's not even really about lack of motivation a lot of the time. It's just students have a voice, but they're not being like handed a microphone to voice their opinions. So the teachers really do have that power to hand them a microphone and say, okay, what's this issue? Who else can we get involved? And like support them through all the steps when it comes to an administrative level. I wish that students could just do it on their own, but they really do need that teacher support a lot of the time. So I think that's a really valuable thing.
I think one point that like I've noticed just personally when we've been talking is that one individual or like that one group that's been giving us that little push or little help to get up there. How do we formalize that, or how do we make that more prevalent for more students? So it doesn't even have to be that we're all going to start our own initiatives or become mentors and stuff like that. How do we formalize that one person dynamic where we have people just inspiring other people, and how do people become more aware of that?
I don't think it has to be necessarily a one-person dynamic. I just think that as long as the environment is welcoming and encourages that kind of a mindset, it's like you're unstoppable at that point. Like I know that just from what I said, Mr. Isabai is a phenomenal teacher, but there's another teacher that I know as well who's actually at Brookview, Mr. Blair. He's a basketball coach, and his mentality when it comes to coaching his students is that we're going to spend an hour before practice working on your assignments. I'll help you with your homework, and then right after that we'll spend 2 hours playing ball. And that kind of mentality, meeting the needs of the student whilst being their friend and being like a mentor and a guide, like a guidance counselor, basically, above everything else, is what students need. You know, you're kind of bashed with like the reality of the world, and you come to school and it's a safe space, and you know your learning is encouraged. Like that's what you need.
So it is that space or that comfortable feeling of just being yourself while also addressing the things that you need to, I guess, those requirements to succeed.
Yeah, I would definitely say that having a welcoming environment, I think, is really important, because as long as they feel comfortable, as long as they can be themselves, you can definitely like encourage them to do whatever they want, like motivate them to do whichever possible thing that they want to change about the world. So I think the environment's really important.
And like talking to young people like they're people, not like they're children. Yeah, no, that's. I love teachers, but I don't want to be condescended to anymore. I like the classes and spaces that I love the most is where there can be and I think people brought this up, but like in terms of like there's a lot of power imbalance between like teachers being seen as authority figures. So like the classes and spaces that I love the most are like where like I feel like I can speak and my opinion can be valued as the same as like anyone else, or as the same as the teacher. Instead of like this is what we're talking about, this is what I'm teaching you, and I know more than you. So can I talk at you for 45 minutes and then you can go away. It's super important to just yes, teachers are important as like mentors, and it's important to have respect for teachers, but like opening up that space so there's less like power imbalance.
Yeah. So I guess for me, one thing that I like to do after every speaking engagement is like to go through one final takeaway that each person has had, or that each person wants to give to the audience. This is a pretty special audience. We don't just have one group of people. We have a bunch of different educators, parents, trustees, board staff. So is there any one takeaway that you were to give to the audience here today? What would it be? Anyone could start.
I guess mine would be Ubuntu, the word. It stuck with me for years now, and I use it time and time again, and I never get tired of it. I am who I am because we are who we are. It's applicable to any situation, and I feel like in a world where, as time progresses, it gets smaller and smaller, it's something that we have to be cognizant of and constantly come back to, just to make sure that we all empathize and we genuinely care and love each other.
I think one thing I would definitely say is that leadership is a growing process, and if you're not making mistakes in that process, you're not trying enough. So it's important that if you're making mistakes, don't push yourself, don't feel bad about yourself. It's just leadership is a growing process, and you're gonna have some low ends, and you're gonna have some high ends, but then the reward behind it is gonna be so much more better.
I guess my point is similar to what I just said, is that young people are people, and that I think in order to encourage student activism and encourage leadership, we need to feel heard and need to feel respected, and it's keeping that in mind when you're creating space or facilitating space.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody has said, and I think that student voices are so valuable, and it's so important just to reach out to students and ask them questions, whether you're a teacher, parent, guidance counselor, or even just a fellow student or older student. It's just so important to have conversations and ask students what their definition of success is and what success feels like to them, rather than telling them that if they fail this test, then they're not going to be successful, because I really believe in my school experience that the most important parts of what I've done were not what I've done academically, even though I really value those things and they're really important. the most important things are what I've learned beyond that and what I've been able to do and accomplish for my own opinions and beliefs, and I think every student deserves that right.
I think my final takeaway would be something I mention like quite often is that education is kind of like an investment in the future in terms of all of the students that go through the education, whether it be secondary or post-secondary, are our stocks, right? If we're putting money in, if we're putting effort in for such a long period of time, we have this opportunity to hear what our stocks are saying, what's working, what's not, when to sell, when to buy. This makes sense to me, so this is the analogy I use, but if you have that capability, I think any investor in their right minds would jump to that idea to listen to what their stocks are saying, to understand what the ticks are, how they function, how they work, how to maximize their yields in terms of what they're learning, what they're getting from the investment that you're putting in. Because it isn't just money, it's time, it's effort, it's love, it's compassion, it's all of those great things that we're putting into the next generation. And every single action that we do for students within the classroom has a reaction in the future of our world, in our country, and just in general, because one positive action could mean that we're ending global poverty. One positive action could mean that we're finding the cure to cancer, or we're encouraging someone to get involved in science. And I guess it's that understanding that it's just one action away from making a positive change for the rest of us that we need to keep in mind when we're in classrooms or we're making decisions for students, is that we have this really, really big opportunity to create change. And if we're ignoring that, we're doing a disservice to the world. In my opinion. So I just want to thank all of the panelists today for giving up their time and coming to speak to us, and all of you for your amazing questions. So I know we have a couple of minutes left back, so if you want to stay back and ask some of the panelists questions, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to answer them some questions. If not, I think we're back to the main area just for a couple last minute conclusions, and then we're off home. But thank you all so much.